Hi, this is George Hoffman from Silver Dragon Tai Chi. This video will be about the primordial Hunyuan Qigong style that I learned from my teacher Kenneth Cohen, and some of you learned from me in workshops. This is not this is not meant to be a teaching tool, but rather something you can use to kind of refresh your memory about the details of the 11 individual movements in this system. I know there's a lot of movements in this system, but we're going to give you a breakdown of the details of each one of the movements, and hopefully that'll refresh your memory on how things go. First, let's talk about the stance. We're going to work with Wu Ji stance, as always, right? Qigong stance. We're going to work with our feet a little bit out toward the diagonal. So rather than the feet in parallel like this, we're going to turn the toes out toward the diagonal a little bit. So anyone of you that has taken this workshop, you understand this as well. So we have the feet out a little bit. All of the rest of the Wu Ji stuff is true. So we sit down into the hips a little bit. The end of the spine reaches straight down. The shoulders are relaxed. The fingers are nice and open. The very back of the crown is rising up toward the heavens. We want to find that shape that helps us relax and release excess tension in the body. The breathing we're going to use is just simple, natural diaphragmatic breathing. So as you inhale, we have the lower abdomen expanding a little bit, giving yourself some room, having the lungs fill completely. And as you exhale, let the lower belly go back to where it began. If you've been doing this for some time, you might feel expansion in the lower back and the sides as well as you do this natural breathing, and that's fine. One of the things we want to work with on the breath is not, and I say not, syncing up the breath with the movements. Many of these movements lend themselves to the breath syncing up. If that happens on its own, that's fine, but we want to try and discourage that or trying to avoid that. The slower the breath goes, the more the mind can relax, the more the body can open to healing. So we're going to work with a simple, natural breathing, and we'll try not to sync the breath with the movements. So let's begin. First movement is going to be drop the chi, cleanse the organs. So I'm going to turn a little bit to the side so that you have a better angle on my hands. We're going to look out into the universe, nice wide eyes. We're going to reach out into the universe. We're going to gather the chi of the universe. We're going to bring it in and mix it with our own chi. Then we're going to soften the eyes and take this mixture and bring it down and cleanse the organs, filtering down through all the organs, pushing out anything that doesn't belong here. Then we're going to bring the hands around in front of the navel. Remember, the middle dantian in this system is the navel. And we're going to store the mixture there. Then we're going to sit down into the hips a little bit, tip forward from the hips, and we're going to point the fingers down. End of the spine is pointing back at an angle, top of the head is pointing up and away at an angle, and out through the fingertips and out through the balls of the feet goes any of that debris that we shook loose. And then nice wide eyes again. We'll reach out. I'm going to do this from the side so you get a little better view. From the side, reach out, gather from the universe, draw in the chi of the universe, mix it with your own. Then soften the eyes and take the mixture and bring it down. Cleanse the organs. You can use the brain. You can do the brain as well as you're doing this because the hands are way up there to begin with. Then we're going to store it, the middle dantian, the navel. And we're going to sit down into the hips, tip the body forward, try and keep the spine relatively straight, and out through the fingertips, out through the balls of the feet goes anything that we don't want. So you want to sit down a little bit so that you're not tipping forward, so you're not feel like you're going to fall over. One more time, reach out into the universe, gather chi from the universe, bring it in, mix it with your own. Then soften the eyes, bring the hands down, cleanse the organs. Bring the hands around, store the mixture at the middle dantian. And sit down, sink, and out through the balls of the feet, out through the fingertips goes anything we don't want. Anything that came loose, let it go. We want to have a relatively straight spine here so the bend comes from the hips and not from the spine. Then at the end of each movement, we're going to do 3 closing circles. So we'll bring the hands up, nice and smooth. We'll come down the front of the body, and as you pass the middle dantian, a little pause, and you may feel energy there as you pause, and then bring the hands down. We'll do 3 times. Smoothing things out. So we're going to do this exercise, this little piece here, between every exercise. Now, we're going to put the hands on the navel. We're going to put the palms on the navel. Men will put the right on the navel and the left hand on top. Women will put the left on and the right on top. This is opposite of what we usually do. And this is unique to the primordial set. And turn your attention inward here and listen inward. And then release the shape. We're going to do those 3 closing circles between all of the exercises, but we will not do it after the 11th exercise, gathering chi, returning chi to the dantians. So, and since we've released any debris, shook out any debris by cleansing the organs, next we'll gather chi to the 3 dantians. Remember, the dantians in the system: upper dantian, third eye; middle dantian, navel; lower dantian is the perineum. Right? So nice wide eyes. Reach out at the level of the third eye. Reach out, draw in, soften the eyes, and store. Then drop the hands down to the navel, and we'll store the remainder here. So we'll store a little bit up here, and then we'll store the remainder down here. Then again, nice wide eyes, reach out, gather, draw in, soften your eyes, store. So you've mixed the universal chi with your own, and we're storing in the third eye, the upper dantian. Then down to the middle. Then again, nice wide eyes, reach out, gather. Soften the eyes and store. So we have a nice round shape here. The elbows have a nice round curve to them, wrists have a nice round curve to them, hands are a little bit forward. Then store the remainder. Then release that shape, and now we'll store at the middle dantian. Nice wide eyes again. Reach out at the level of the navel. Draw in. Soften your eyes. Store. So we've mixed universal chi with our own. And then again, nice wide eyes. And again. Then we'll release that shape, and we're going to store in the perineum. So the perineum is right between that area between the anus and the genitals. So we're going to reach out. What we're going to do is we're going to reach out over the top, draw up from the earth. So think of drawing yin energy up from the earth. And as we draw up, I want you to stand up, sink into the hips, but rotate the body so it's rotating up. And we're going to use the palms to focus on the perineum here. So we'll do that the first part. And then we're going to take the hands the index finger and the thumb. So we're going to take this surface and press it on either side of the Ming Men. And the Ming Men is belt level right on the spine here. That's part 2. And then we'll bring the hands around to store in front of the navel again. Okay. And we're going to add, let's go through it and then we'll add a couple of images to that. So up over the top. Draw up, sink, and store. So you've had nice wide eyes, now you soften the eyes and store. Hands on either side of the Ming Men. Then we'll store in front. Now we're going to add a couple of images. So as we reach down, draw up. As you draw up and store in the perineum, men will tug up gently on the perineum, on the Hou Yin in the perineum. Women will have a very gentle Kegel tug, like those exercises from the 80s, right? Gentle Kegel tug. Not a really strong muscular tug, but just a gentle tug. So we'll have that tug up and store. Then when you put the hands on the Ming Men, feel for a sensation of a warm palm of energy pressing from back through the body to the front. So we have that sense of a warm palm pressing all the way through the body to the front, so back to front. And then we'll store in front. And again, draw the energy up and then gentle tug up in the perineum, right? So what we're doing is closing the governing vessel, the gap between the governing and conception vessel there in the perineum. Hands on either side of the Ming Men. Store in front. Let's do that one more time. Sink down, wide eyes, draw up, gently tug up, internally tug up, gentle tug. Hands on either side of the Ming Men. That feeling of a gentle palm of energy pressing from the back, from your back all the way through the body to the front. And then store. Then we'll do 3 closing circles. Hands on the navel. Remember, men with right on the bottom, women with the left. And then release. So now that we've cleansed the organs and restored energy, gathered more energy, and restored energy to the 3 dantians, we're going to move the energy around in the body. And pretty much the rest of this system is about moving energy around the body. First one is going to be 2 palms rotate the sphere. So as if we had a sphere between our hands, right? Remember, you feel Lao Gong points between the palms. Generally, people feel energy there. And then the tactile sense of the fingertips, right? So we have this sphere of energy. It's going to be about here, right in front of the sternum and heart area. Right? And we're going to rotate the hands up over the top and out, up over the top and out. So we're going to rotate this away from us. This sphere between the hands ultimately will be a sphere that includes the entire body as well. So this part of the body as well. So we're rotating this sphere. And then we'll reverse the direction. This is a very simple one, seems a very simple one, but we want to have the sense of this rotation, this energy rotation. We want the whole body to participate with this. And you might do this 9 times forward, 9 times backward, and then you do closing circles. What I want you to look for, though, is I want you to look for that sense that the whole body is participating in this. So if I let me see if I can get my feet in view here. So we have this sphere. Remember, the toes are turned out to the sides a little bit. We have this sphere. So whole body is doing this. So a little bit of rotation, if you feel, up from the leg, up through the hip, out through the waist, out through the hands. So remember from the classics, right? Up through the feet, up through the legs, the waist distributes the energy, the hands express the energy. So if you look at that from the Tai Chi classics, we have that same feeling here, as we have a little bit of a rise so that the whole body participates, so it's not just hands doing this stuff, right? And then we'll rotate backward. So we would do that 9 times in each direction. We want the whole body to participate. So I don't know if you can tell that. We have a little bit of a hip rotation here, up through the legs, up through the body, out through the hands. So the hands are moving because the body is moving the hands. So we have this whole generation. So we have this sphere, remember, between the hands, a sphere between the hands, and ultimately a sphere in the body. And then we'll do closing circles. 3 closing circles. Remember, a minor pause as you pass the navel, and you might feel energy as you pass there as well. Hands on the navel. Turn your attention inward. Remember, we want palm to palm here, so we want Lao Gong point to Lao Gong point, so the palms are one over top of the other. Then we'll release that shape. The next one is called opening and closing the 3 dantian. So that same feeling we had with energy between the palms, right? So we're going to bring that energy ball between the palms right in front of the third eye here. So we'll hold that and we'll expand the hands and close the hands. Expand, opening and closing. Opening and closing right in front of the third eye here. We have a nice shape in the arms. So we have a nice curve in the arms so that the arms aren't bent back like this. We have this nice curve. We want these nice curves so that energy flows more freely. So we have this expansion and contraction. I'm going to do it at kind of an angle here. Opening and closing. So as we open, chi rushes out to the skin, out to the edge of the body. And as we close, chi penetrates the bones. Opening out to the skin, penetrating the bones. Now we have a sphere between the hands, but we also have a sphere that is in the third eye, in the upper dantian. So each time we're going to work to get to that point where there is only one sphere. And we're opening and closing these 3 dantians. And you might do this, say, 9 times. Then release that shape and form another one in front of the middle dantian, the navel. And then open and close. Remember, we have a sphere between the hands, but there's also a sphere here in front of the inside of the middle dantian, right? So this can be a single sphere. Ultimately, we want to try and get to that place. Remember, as you expand out, chi rushes to the skin. As you close the hands in, chi rushes into the bones and penetrates the bones. Out to the skin, into the bones. And I want you to feel for the whole body doing this expansion and contraction. So you might feel your shoulder blades, right, flexing a little bit as the whole body expands here. So it's not just arms doing this, right? Whole body expands. Whole body compresses. So expansion out to the skin, compression into the bones. And you might do this 9 times as well. You want to do these the same number of times. Let's call that 9. And then let that sphere go and form another sphere in front of the lower dantian, right? So here, as you do this, sit down a little bit so you can have the hands in front of the lower dantian. And then the same expansion. So we have the ball here. We have this ball in front of the lower dantian, the perineum area, right? Opening out to the skin, closing down, penetrating the bones. Chi expanding out to the skin, penetrating the bones. So we're strengthening the skeletal structure, right? Improving the energetic immune system. Now the breathing throughout all of this, as we mentioned earlier, the breathing throughout all of this is just gentle breathing. We're trying not to sync up the breath with the movements. We want the mind to quiet, and as the breath slows, the mind will quiet. So let's call that 9. We'll do one more, that's 9, and we'll close. And then we'll do closing circles. And hands on the navel. Turning your attention inward. bodies. The next one is called sun and moon revolving. Sun and moon revolving. So the sun is the heart, the moon is the lungs. So we're going to work on the relationship of what that relationship of the sun and the moon is to you, right? So we're going to start by warming up the hands, rubbing them, get them nice and warm, and pressing them on the upper part of the chest. Press in. And as you press in here, contemplate that idea of the sun and the moon revolving. What does that mean to you? There's no right or wrong answer. Just feel for what is that to you. And then we'll shake out the hands, rub them together, get them nice and hot again, and press into the upper rib cage. And contemplate that idea, sun and moon revolving. And shake them out again. Third time. Press in. Just a gentle press, gentle connection. And then we're going to move the hands away from the body. So we're going to pull the hands away from the body. So I want you to look for that sensation of energy connection. So you can probably feel the energy of the body here pressing, and we want to pull out so that we maintain that sense of energy connection between the palms and the torso, right? So we have that sense of energy. So you might be able to go out farther, in or out, and in or out, and find the optimum place. And in the beginning, it's okay if you don't feel the energy. Just allow the hands to stop where they want to do. They're not going to stop back here. Your body won't let that happen, right? So we're going to come out here so we have this energy. And then what we're going to do with the hands is we're going to massage the lungs and the heart. So we're going to bring up the inside, down the outside. Up the inside, down the outside. So we have this three-dimensional sense of this, right? Around the sides of the lungs and down. Up the middle includes the heart and the lungs, and then down the outside. So you'll notice that your back is flexing. Shoulder blades are flexing a little bit. We want the whole body to do this again. So this whole rising, falling connection is connected with the whole body. So your feet aren't numb and stones, right? We have that connection with the earth, with the feet. So we would do this 9 times in this direction, up the inside, out the down the outside. And then we would reverse. We'd come up the outside, down the inside. Up the outside, down the inside. So we want to maintain that energy connection throughout. So we have that sense of energy connection with the hands and the body. And we would do this the same number of times you did the first one, the first direction. And generally that's going to be 9. Let's call this 9. And what we're going to do is we'll bring the hands together. We're going to take the 2 middle fingers, put them right in the center of the sternum, and we're going to lead energy down from the sternum down to the navel 3 times. Now women, you might not be able to reach all the way in there, so just out wherever you can reach that sense of connection, and just lead the energy down. Just lead the energy down. Then we'll do 3 closing circles. And your hands, as you're doing closing circles, the hands are kind of at an angle, maybe 45 degrees or so. So they're about like this as they face the body. They're not straight toward the body, they're not straight down. So we have that sense of comfortable scooping energy down, and then we'll put the hands on the navel. And release that shape. The next movement is called vertical extension and withdrawal. So we're going to work with 2 energy vessels in the body. The conception vessel that runs from the perineum up the front, to the base of the tongue, and the governing vessel, it runs from the perineum up the back over the top of the head to the roof of the mouth. These connect at the top with the tongue on the roof of the mouth, and just like we did when we were storing energy in the lower dantian, we have a connection at the bottom too. So if you like, you can add that connection at the bottom. So we're going to do this with bow stance. In bow stance, we're going to have 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. We're going to sit on the back leg, and we're going to hold the hands by the hip. Now the torso is facing 45 degrees, almost all the weight's on the back here. Hands are about hip high, yeah. And what we're going to do is expand it. So if you think of that idea of expansion, as we shift forward, the hands are expanding, 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 and then we'll sink back and shift back to the rear leg. Expanding, think pong, right? Expansion, that idea of roundness. Irresistible force, and then we'll come back. So from the side it would look expansion, and then back. Turn to the diagonal, hands at the hips, and then expand, and then back. So we would do this 3 times, 5 times, 9 times. And as we're doing this, chi rises up the back, over the top of the head, and as we shift back, it comes down the front to the perineum. So we're circulating those two, energy in those two vessels, up the governing vessel, down the conception vessel in the front. So these two and the belt channel are the only vessels that I am aware of in the body that can reverse direction. So we're like flushing and washing energy in one direction and then the other, right? So we'll do this, say 9 times, and we'll come back. The last time we'll come here, and then we're going to shift forward. Expand, 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 and then relax back to the corner again, to the diagonal. Expand. Energy here is rising up the front and descending down the back. So energy up the front, down the back. Now you can do the expansion from back to front on both legs and then come back and do front to back on both legs. I prefer this idea of up to back, down the front. So energy here is up the conception vessel, down the governing vessel in the back. And that feeling of expansion here, like pong, P-E-N-G, pong, right? Irresistible force, and then relax back. Let's do one more. And back. Then let's change feet. So the other foot forward, start at the hip. Remember the torso's at the diagonal here. Hands are right at the hip. As we shift forward, expansion, we come to about 60-70% into the front leg, and then we come back 60-70% in the back leg, maybe a little bit more. Expand, 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 and then back. Now turn to the side. Energy up the back. Hands expand. Energy comes down the front. So up the governing vessel, up over the top of the head, down the front, back to the perineum again. Expansion. Think irresistible force, pong, right? Roundness. Energy comes forward. Weight comes back. Last time, weight comes forward. Weight comes back. And then we reverse. Expand forward. Energy comes up the front. Relax back. Energy down the back. You can do this as slowly as you like, as you get more used to this exercise system, this Qigong system. You'll find pieces that are your favorites. Let's do one more. Then we'll do 3 closing circles. And then let go. This piece is called single leg rising and falling, and it's about working with the energy channels in the legs. They run down the outside, up the inside. So we're going to start with one leg first. So we'll start with hands right in front of the middle dantian. We're going to shift the weight to one side. As you shift the weight to one side, relax into that hip. Turn the waist. As you turn the waist, we want that knee to point toward the toes. We're going to take the hands from the waist up. We'll turn a little farther so the hands are on the outside, and we'll run down the outside of the empty leg. Turn, come up the inside. Bring back to the center, to the middle dantian. Turn, and then down the outside. Up the inside. So I want you to pay attention to your knees as we do this. So as we shift to one side and turn, we want that knee on the weighted side. We want it to head out toward the toes. And then we'll turn from the waist up, down so we can face the other side. So facing you, shift to one side, knee comes out over the toe, hands come around to the side. So the torso is facing about 45 degrees. That keeps the knee nice and stable. And from the waist up, we've turned so the hands are here on the outside leg, and down the outside and up the inside. Back to the middle, shift, down the outside, up the inside. So we would do this probably 9 times on each side. You can change the number up. And remember, the channels in the leg run down the outside of the leg, they run up the inside of the leg. And we would do this, say, 9 times to each side. Pay attention to your knees. If your knees bother you, then adjust the stance so that this is safe for you. You want to come back to stand up each time and then go down again. Come back to stand up each time and then go down again. And after X number of times, whatever X is for you, 3 closing circles. So we can do that one leg at a time, or we can do 2 legs at a time. So this is double legs, rising and falling. So we'll start with the hands right in front of the middle dantian. We're going to turn the hands out to the side. So we'll expand out to the side. We'll run the hands down the outside of the legs, up the inside of the legs, past the middle again, and then down the outside, up the inside. And again, we're bathing the legs in energy. This is the direction of movement of energy. Of the 6 channels below the waist, we have 3 that run down the outside, 3 that run up the inside. And they're bilateral, so they run up and down both sides of the body. And you would do that X number of times, and then you would do closing circles. And then you would release. This next movement is called belt channel turning the millstone. And the belt channel runs from the floating rib in the back around the waist and peaks down toward the pubic bone in the front. So this is a controller of our energetic immune system. It helps to regulate the movement of qi above and below the waist, the balance of yin and yang qi in the body as well. So this also is one of those vessels, one of 3 vessels that can reverse direction. So we're going to start with very small circles, and we're going to have palms down. Now you can have your palms facing you, or you can have your palms down. I prefer this with the palms down, so we'll do it this way. So we'll do small circles out in front and back. So here I'm doing counterclockwise circles. And if you look at it from the side, they extend forward, they come back along the front of the body, extend forward, come back along the front of the body. So as we're doing these small circles, rotating in this direction, a belt of energy around the waist. I always picture a really shiny belt of energy around the waist. And a belt of energy around the waist is rotating in the same direction. So I'm doing clockwise circles from where I am. Around the waist, clockwise direction, is a belt of energy around the outside that runs in the same direction. And inside, we're going to consider the Dantian inside as a sphere, like an orbiting planet, right? So we're going to take this little orbiting planet, and if you look at the cross section of the torso, right, we're going to go around, orbiting around inside, right? So as my hands come forward, the Dantian is coming across the front of the body, orbiting across the front of the body. As my hands come back toward the body, the Dantian is orbiting along the back of the body in the same direction. So hands are going in counterclockwise direction. Belt of energy is circling around the waist. I always picture something shiny so that I can have that image in my mind. And then internally, in that oval that is a cross section of the body, we have the Dantian orbiting inside. As my hands come forward, the Dantian's in front of the body, going from right to left. As my hands come back toward the body, the Dantian's toward the back of the body, orbiting from left to right. So it's going orbiting inside. So we have these three things going on. And then we're going to reverse the direction. Same thing, small. And notice that the whole body is moving here. So it's not just the arms doing this. We want everything involved in this. This is a great Dantian awareness exercise. One of my favorites. And you could do this independently if you want, just to work on the sensation of the Dantian in the body. So we have the hands now orbiting clockwise, belt of energy around the waist orbiting clockwise, Dantian orbiting inside clockwise. So everything's going in the same direction here. And you would do this, 3, 5, or 9 times. Pick a number. You can do more. But I would encourage you in the beginning to slow this down so you get the feeling of the hands, the feeling of the waist, and the feeling of the internal Dantian. In the beginning, my recollection is that I paid most attention to the internal Dantian, the hands and the internal Dantian. It took me a while to come back and find the belt of energy around the waist. So those are the small circles. Large circles are going to be like kidney shapes. So we'll turn. Torso turns to the diagonal, hands are by the hip, great big circles out. And then to the other side, and then back, across the front of the body here, out, way out. So if you looked at this from above, it looks like a giant kidney shape. So here I'm going counterclockwise. The belt of energy around my waist is going counterclockwise. And internally, I want my Dantian to orbit in the opposite direction. So if my hands are going counterclockwise, my Dantian's orbiting clockwise. If you have the image from the James Bond films or something, roulette table, right? So the wheel is spinning in one direction, and they start the ball in the opposite direction. So here the hands are the wheel, the belt around the energy around the waist is the wheel, and the Dantian is the ball going in the opposite direction. So as my hands cross right to left, the Dantian's crossing left to right in front. As my hands cross left to right in front, the Dantian is crossing right to left in the back. So it's orbiting in opposition to this. So we have these directions. So slow it down, feel for that sense of Dantian crossing in front, Dantian crossing the back, Dantian crossing in front, Dantian crossing in back. We'll do one more. And then reverse the direction. Same thing, big circles. So here I'm doing clockwise circles with the hands, clockwise circles of energy around the waist and the belt around the waist, counterclockwise circles with the Dantian. So as my hands are going left to right in front, the Dantian's internally going right to left. As my hands come back toward the body and go from my right side to my left side, the Dantian's going from my left side to my right side in the back. So it's going in opposition the entire time. Great Dantian awareness exercise. Great exercise to strengthen the energy in the belt channel, strengthen the energetic immune system, help the balance of yin and yang qi in the body. And then at the end we would do 3 closing circles. This one might take you some time to find, and that's okay. Play with this one. I encourage you to play with this one. It's great for building awareness of the Dantian. And then release the shake. This movement is called Heaven and Earth Opening and Closing. We're going to start with crossing the hands in front. Rising up, and at the very top we'll separate the hands out to the side like we're opening up the heavens. As the hands come down to the bottom, we're closing the earth. Hands cross in front, up. They rotate so the palms come out toward the corners, and then separate, opening up the heavens and closing the earth. Each time we're going to do a different hand in front. And open the heavens and close the earth. Opening the heavens, closing the earth, different hand in front each time. Then we'll reverse the direction. So then we'll open the earth. Palms are down. Separate like you're spreading the earth apart. Bring the hands up, closing the heavens. Cross the hands about eye level, down the front. Palms down, separate, open the earth. So spread the earth apart and open it up. And then close the heavens. Palms down, separate. Again, we're going to have a different hand in front each time. And if you miss that, don't lose any sleep over it. Ultimately, we'll try and find that separating the earth, closing the heavens. Now there's an alternative way for the hands to come down. We can bring the hands down so they're palms facing each other right down the center of the body. Separate, spread the earth apart. Bring the hands back so the palms face each other, come right down the front. Separate the earth. Hands come back together again. Down the front. Separate the earth. And back together. Now in the first one, where we're with the heavens, when we get to the very peak of the heaven, we want to open up, I'll say, to the 3 hearts. The 2 Lao Gong points, the 2 Yang Chuan points, the bubbling springs in the feet, and the Bai Wei point. So for an instant, as we open the heavens, have that sense of the 5 hearts. And close. And open the instant of the 5 hearts. And close. And you would separate the earth again. You can do this X number of times in both directions. One is opening up the earth, spreading open the earth and closing the heavens. The other one is opening the heavens and closing the earth. Right? And when you're done, 3 closing circles. And release. This last exercise is called returning qi to the Dantian. And you can do this if you're doing a subset of the form. So if you do the first 2 and maybe 5 and 6 and you want to close out, we can do this, returning qi to the Dantian. So it's like sweep out as if there's a table of qi in front of you, a great big platform of qi, and draw the qi in and store in the middle Dantian. And then let that hand relax and do the other side. Sweep out like you're sweeping, gathering energy off the table, drawing it in and storing it. we have a little bit of shape here, right? And release, and gather, and store, and gather, and store, and gather, and store, and release. And after this one, we will not do the closing circles. So if you were to do the first 3 or 4 of these and you wanted to close out, you could just do this returning chi to the dantian at the end. And I like the feeling of there's a table of chi, a giant gathering of chi, sweep it in and store it. And then gathering, sweep it in and store it, and release it. Good. I hope this has been helpful.